An electric sunshade? What?
Today's video, I'll be installing an electric sunshade to my Model Y Juniper. Everybody loves the glass roof on the Model Y. That is, until they don't. And when they don't, is always when it's 100, 110, 120 degrees day and that sun comes glaring through the roof. It's then you need some kind of sunshade. Now, every Tesla comes with the sunshade, or if it doesn't, you can at least buy one, but they're kind of hokey. But today's video, I'm installing the electric sunshade.
I think you're really going to love this sunshade. But let's first start with the unboxing. So I'll be honest with you, this box came in a much bigger package than what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be this nice little narrow box that I was going to have to reassemble everything. But this was actually much nicer because it's already one piece. You just have to add a little bit of hardware. Speaking of hardware, it comes all in this box, including some gloves, which I'm not going to wear because I'm a man.
So I am eventually going to show you the easiest and the right way to do this, but first I'm going to show you the wrong way, which is basically every way I've tried up until now to get the shade actually into your car.
So in typical man fashion, I read no directions and looked at no instructions. So I went ahead to this through here in the back, tried to figure it out and realized, yeah, it was backwards. So I pulled it back out of the car, flipped it around, went to put it back in, and it didn't really fit, at least not without moving any of the seats. So I moved the front seats, laid them all the way back, slid it back through, kind of put it into position, got all the little headrests out of the way. It was going to fit, but then I just realized there had to be a better way. So I pulled it out, pushed the front seats all the way forward, and then laid down the back seats. Duh, this was the way I should have done it all along. As you can see here now, I put it in through the back. Yeah, that's the way to do it. And I eventually balanced it on the headrests.
Okay, so let's get this started really simply. You're going to have two different sets of wires, which we'll get to in a second. They're all going to hook back into here and then run up to the front of the vehicle. Then inside you have these four different brackets. Two of them are larger, two of them are smaller. The two larger ones are going to go in the front of the vehicle, while the two small ones are going to go here on the back. But you can't mess these two up. If you look on the end of them, they're actually different sizes. The shorter one has the smaller end, whereas the longer one here has a full end. Now only the back one here, the shorter one, is going to insert into the tray. You'll see there's just a little gap here on top and the screws here underneath. This is just going to slide down into those, but if you notice, if you try to put the long one in, it's just physically too big, it won't fit in. So you're going to slide this bottom one in here. Now we are going to screw the back one in first. It's going to be stationary to the shade before we put it up in, whereas the front's going to be the opposite. We're going to put the little clips up in the ceiling and then fasten those into after the fact.
These each screw in really easily, two screws on each side.
Now, having just installed the ones in the back, the ones here in the front, you're going to deceive you a little bit because you're going to assume they slide down into this gap here because they actually fit, and that would make sense, but it really doesn't. There's no way to actually put a screw into here. I can't hit it. That's where you're going to have these here, and this is where it's going to screw into. But if you'll notice, this is just a hole, whereas this actually has the receiving of a female thread. So I'm going to have to screw into this. So I know I'm going to put this into the ceiling, and it's going to come down set over the top of this, where then I'm going to put a screw down through this bracket. It's going to thread into this bracket here, just like that. So next I need to slide this up into the bracket up here, but before I do that, I want to run all my wires first. So this is the wire I need to find the power supply for, which I believe is somewhere back behind this. So we're going to take off all this little black trim first.
Now this trim actually pulled off really easy, and it's not like you have to pull the whole thing off. Just from that little corner up to the top tip of the car, and then you're going to pry this little side open. And I'll zoom in here, and you can actually see there it is. So I kind of just reach in here. It's actually on like a little clip, and I have to slide the little bracket up, and the whole thing comes loose, and I can pull it out. Now I can separate it. So this is just the power applied to the car. So you're going to pull it apart, and basically you're just teeing into it. So you're pulling it apart, connecting one side from where you already have into one, then the other into the other side, and then you're going to run that little small tee up to the top of the car, and then go ahead and put it back in place.
So now I have to fish the other end of this cable here up underneath this here, but then get it out through the glass on the other side, and it's probably going to meet up with the extension cable, which I'll show you in a second, probably about midway through the car or the windshield.
Now I need to fish this over this little cloth type panel into the back. So I pull this out enough to fish this wire through, so eventually I'm going to go around to the other side of the car, pull this down a little bit more, and I'll be able to pull out all this extra slack from the back now into the center of the glass, and then begin to start tucking it all the way around. And before I connected it all, I went ahead and put this all back together because I'm not going to need it anymore, and I don't really like it being open.
Next, I have the smaller cable. Now, this is just an extension cable to help get it from here up to the front because our motor is up there in the front. So again, all this is an extension, and you're going to have plenty of extra wire where it's going to tuck it in along the way, but you are going to start with connecting it here.
Then I went ahead and just used this little trim tool that came in the kit and tucked it in all the way around. Now I had more than enough wires, so I actually had to kind of loop it up and tuck it in where I felt like the empty spots were, including the little junction point where I actually connected it to the extension cable, get it all tucked in.
And before we get too much farther, I'm going to go ahead and plug the other end of this cord into the empty slot here on the motor. Now there's 2 empty slots. One of them has a little 2-wire prong, one of them has 3. This is the one with the 3, which on mine is the outside one towards the front of the vehicle. So now that I have only about a foot left of slack and I have it tucked in just about all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and put the back of the brackets in place.
This was a little tricky for me at first, and then I realized I just got to get this little black piece, as you can see the split screen, all the way up to the top before you push it in. If you get those brackets snugged up tight to the glass, it'll go in without really much resistance at all.
So the next step, you're going to slide these up into the ceiling, but you're going to be lining them up with this little clip here first the best you can.
I again needed to get these really flush with the glass in order to insert these in. I had to push a little bit, nothing too crazy, but it just felt like it's what I had to put the pressure in. Now once you line it up, you may have to tweak it a little bit, but that's normal. Now getting this screw in is what proved to be a little bit of a challenge. The biggest problem I had was the screwdriver that I have was kind of fat. It was getting stuck between the top of the shade and the glass, and I couldn't quite get a good connection.
All right, so this would have worked, but it made it a little bit harder because my screwdriver that I'm using is kind of fat, so it's binding up when I get it up there. So I went ahead and grabbed an extension, and I put a little Phillips bit on like this, and then I grabbed another extension, put it in a bit, so now I'm gonna hopefully be able to get in there just a little bit easier.
Putting in this first screw with the long extension proved to be a piece of cake. It really snugged right in. Now the second one took me a couple tries. At first I thought I was lined up, but it really wasn't. Had to kind of readjust, and then this time it snugged right in.
You have it installed, here's how to use it. So simple. To shut it, just one simple press of the button, forward and backwards. Just press it once, it'll begin to shut. You can press it forward the same direction, and it'll stop, retouch it, and it'll begin to shut back the other way. And to open it back up, again, a single press of the back arrow. It'll open, again, anywhere same direction to back, it'll stop. Press it again, it'll continue opening. Okay, so now the cool part, the voice activation. This is honestly way better than I thought it would be. I don't mean a little bit better, way better. So in this little kit, they give you a whole sheet of paper of all the different voice commands that your sunshade responds to. Now, every sunshade is given a particular name. In my case, the name they gave me, or the activation name, is Amy. I don't have an Amy in my family, so that works great. If I did, it might get a little awkward. So to activate it, you'll just say hi, which is the wake word, followed by your shade's name. So in my case, it would be, hi, Amy.
I am here.
Close the sunshade.
Okay.
Please stop.
Okay.
Open the sunshade.
Okay.
Close the sunshade.
Okay.
Next, you also have some ambient lighting going around this. It will also respond to that. Again, it's the same wake word. You just have to use the exact commands it gives you. Hi, Amy.
I am here.
Turn off the roof ambient light.
Okay.
Turn on the roof ambient light.
Okay.
Switch to blue.
Okay.
Switch to white.
Okay.
Switch to green.
Okay.
Switch to red.
Okay.
Switch to purple.
Okay.
Open the sunshade.
Okay.
Switch to blue.
Okay.
Switch to red.
Okay.
Please stop.
Okay.
And in case you're wondering, I didn't skip the installation and the setup on the voice command. It just came like that auto program. There was no setup, there was no connecting to Wi-Fi. It just works. Okay, in recap, I'll give you some of the positives and some of the negatives. First, I'll start with the negatives. And this is only really partially a negative, and that is the cost. It is a little pricey, but that being said, I think this is probably a one-time purchase. I put an electric sunshade. Now, it wasn't quite as nice as this one, didn't have the voice activation, but in my previous Model Y, it's now been in there for 3.5 years, give or take, and it still works great. So while it is pricey, it's probably a one-time purchase. Also on that same vein, this is actually going to save you money in the long run. You're going to get that money back little by little, because on a hot day, if you have the sun glaring through that window, it almost kind of like magnifies. It's going to take you more energy to cool your vehicle. So you're gonna have to use extra energy, take mileage, take percentage off your car while it's cooling down your car. Now, if you come and get in your car on a 110, 115 degree day, even a 100-degree day, the cabin of your car, you've probably seen it before in your app, it's gonna be anywhere from 120, 140, 150, up to 170 degrees, or you're gonna have your cabin overheat protection on, which means you're gonna be running your air conditioning all day long while you're either in the store or at work for 8, 9, 10 hours. This will help solve that problem while it shuts during the day, or even during the day as you drive on long trips. You're gonna make that money back. Now, I'm not gonna say you're gonna make it back in the first month or two, but if you're planning on having your car for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to make that back just in energy savings on your hot days. The next negative, it was a little louder than I was expecting. But that being said, how often am I going to be opening and shutting this shade? I've been doing it like crazy today because I just put it in, but eventually I'm going to open and shut this probably, once or twice a day, maybe if that. So I don't think it's like I'm constantly doing this back and forth while I'm on phone calls. While it is a little noisier than I expected, it's not deafening. It's not like crazy loud. It just makes a bit more noise. But again, that is what it is. The third potential downside is the installation. Now, the installation itself is super simple. It's going to take you maybe 20 minutes. If you have somebody helping you and you've kind of watched this video and you see the basics walkthrough, you could be talking about a 10, 15 minute job. But it was a little tricky, as you saw right up near the top of the glass, and I had to get that extension for my drill. Now, I could have probably gotten it had a longer, thinner screwdrivers, because that was the only part of this whole process that was even remotely tricky. Now for the positives, which I basically just kind of mentioned as a combat all the negatives, is it's going to save you money while keeping you and your passengers comfortable. That's always the knock everyone's ever had on their Teslas. I actually don't know why Tesla doesn't just put one of these in their car, or give you the option to put one of these in their car. I've had cars with sunshades and moonroofs and sunroofs, and they always cover. A Tesla is the first car I've had where just a glass roof open all the time. Really, it's a little frustrating sometimes if you're trying to stay cool or trying to stay comfortable, or even just trying to read or watch a screen, there's a glare. This solves all those problems, and it's a really easy install, with that rare exception of just putting those 2 screws here in the front. But again, if you have the right tools, even that becomes simple. The ambient lighting. I did not get this sunshade for the ambient lighting, but that's just a cool bonus. If you are trying to get a theme to your car, like a color theme, this will help match. I know my car is red. I like my inside red. I'm going to put some red seating covers in next week. So to have this ambient light up here also red, really just kind of like ties the whole car in together. Kind of gives it that sporty, kind of a fun feel. And lastly, the voice automation. It works so much better than I thought. Once you kind of memorize or learn those little commands, it's a total game changer. Hi, Amy.
I am here.
She's here. She's always here. Once you learn those exact commands, it's just so simple. Hi, Amy.
I am here.
Open the sunshade.
Okay.
I will never not get used to that. It works so well. This is what separates this from the sunshade I put in my old Model Y. I mean, this is a party trick I'll be showing all my friends for months and years to come. So as I mentioned earlier, sunshade, a tad on the pricey side. To help with that, they offer all kinds of discount codes. I'd love to use mine. It's down in the description below. Use my channel name, Charisma, and get yourself the maximum discount you can get on this order. See you on the next one.